Here we are at the Pellicer Museum in Villahermosa. This is the regional Anthropology Museum. Here he is himself, the man who saved all the statues from Venta. The main museum here is amazing. It's got some beautiful Olmec pieces, an Olmec head, and other pieces from other cultures. So let's get in and have a look. So we're just round the back of monument number 2 here at the Pellicer Anthropology Museum in Villahermosa. This is actually one of the Olmec heads. Let's get around the front of it perhaps. And you can actually see this is from Venta. This is an original head. It's one of the smaller ones, and it's one of the only ones, or the only one, that actually appears to be smiling, although you can see the teeth in this one as well, which is quite unusual. You don't often see the teeth on the Olmec heads. It's quite badly worn, quite badly damaged, but for your reference, this is monument number 2 from Venta. So here are some jade celts from Venta. These are all kind of from around 1200 or so BC. This mask, again, is from Piedra Verde. You can just see the stonework here. Again, this dates to about 1200 to 400 BC. Again, this is a giant celt. This may have carvings on it, but you can't really see it. And we have another mask here from the side, which is very, very interesting, classic Olmec. This again is from Piedra Verde, so it must be a smaller Olmec site. These are as well. About 900 BC. This one is very interesting. Look at this. This is from Piedra Verde as well, 1200 to 400 BC. And look at that. Look at the pointed top there. Absolutely amazing. And a classic Olmec mask here. Some beautiful, beautiful necklace made of serpentine and possibly jade. And of course, we have the classic Olmec head on display prominently here at the museum. So behind me is monument 13 from Venta, one of the most important pieces. It's called the Traveller, and it's got glyphs on it. It's got like a footprint suggesting it is indeed someone, potentially a Phoenician or someone from even the Middle East, by looking at the headgear, who may have actually visited Venta. So this is a big, big story, this. The fact that it's here on display at the museum in Villahermosa is absolutely mind-blowing. This is the original piece. And you can see it's got strange glyphs, it's got unusual headgear and footwear, which some people suggest could be Phoenician. So there's a big debate about this. This goes back to around 1200 BC. You can see his scythe or flag he's carrying. You can see the kind of specific type of headgear. You can see the glyphs here, which no one has been able to decipher, although JJ might well do that. And you can see the strange footwear, which is even weirder. So this is one of the most important pieces from Venta. These glyphs absolutely fascinate me. Look at these. There's some kind of bird figure. And you've got like almost like a Mickey Mouse type figure there. And then some kind of unknown glyph there. He's holding some kind of flag or weapon. And just his face is amazing. Look at that. The headgear and hair coming off. Mind-blowing. I'm just walking around the back of it, and it's an unusual piece because it's like a column really that's on its side, and you can see the back of it here. It's just a big chunk that's like a tube or a column. So was it originally one of the Olmec columns that we find at places like San Lorenzo and other such sites? It seems like it was very specifically created to mark this important moment when a traveller, potentially a Phoenician or a Canaanite or someone from somewhere on a different part of the planet, visited Venta. So here we have one of the pieces of basalt that create the aqueducts. You can see that in the photo they've provided here at the museum. This is from Venta. Again, we find this all over San Lorenzo, Tres Zapotes, Venta itself, and you can just see there are thousands of these pieced together to create this whole system, not just of moving water, but actually, I believe it was to create electric charge and energy throughout the whole site, which has been proven by researchers like John Burke. Here's just the information about it, and there's the actual amazing piece of the aqueduct system. So this piece is from Venta. It looks like it's made of serpentine. You can see the style of the stone, the kind of little kind of striations in it. It's said to represent corn, like the harvest, and it's like a fertility stone. And so I find this really interesting. It's got interesting little features we can look at closely in a moment. And you can see the slightly green or aquamarine color of it. There's much more here. Let's keep looking. These are photos of actual elongated skulls found in burial caves taken by Luis Alberto Martos. And you can see, look, clearly cranial deformation. This is the guy who was discovering these, and these are in caves in Tabasco state. We have two amazing pieces here from Venta. This one here is like a crouched figure representing a weird jaguar, or just a jaguar itself looking up to the sky, made of basalt. The one behind has like these goggle eyes, which we find on many Olmec artifacts with crosses on them, almost like goggles or glasses. And we find this tradition not only at Venta, where this is from, but also at sites going into Guatemala, like La Democracia, Monte Alto, and others. And so these traditions here seem to be not just in the main Olmec sites, but have lasted into other cultures, into different eras. The information board speculates that it's kind of a diviner, or looking up to the sky to read the stars. Absolutely amazing. You can see the detail on the hands there. It's holding something at the bottom there. Its legs go back very strangely. Then we have this symbol here on the back of it as well. You can see it's got like elongated or cleft skull, like it's been cranially deformed. You can see that from above there as well. It's sort of like an indentation and flattening in it. And then you can see like the weird jaguar kind of features. And it's sitting down in the Quizzo position, which is a tradition we find here and in other parts of the world. Here we have another weird jaguar statue from Venta, and you can see the cleft skull. You can see the cross on one of the eyes, which is a symbol of divinity, sometimes of Quetzalcoatl. And then we have a kind of, almost like a spiral, or more like a standard eye. Then we have the cleft skull with patterning all around it on top. This is very similar to the statue, one of the famous statues that we find at Laguna de los Cerros, which is a slightly later site to Venta. You can see if you go around the side here, you can see like the shape representation of the shape of the skull is absolutely remarkable. So this piece is called the Acrobats, and it's from a place called Blancan, Tabasco. So we don't think there was a site there, but certainly it shows you an Olmec kind of face, which you can kind of see there, kind of Olmecoid, and it dates to 1200 BC. Here we have Monument 21 from Venta, and again you can clearly see this is like a seated figure, almost like he's inside one of these thrones. His like top part of the body's there, the head's missing, and his hands are doing interesting things. We also have this kind of strange indentation carving, and he's kind of sitting inside a throne. It's a really interesting piece actually. You know, it's like a half throne, half man. This is actually from Venta. Now this is a representation of a very angry hunchback with an elongated skull. I mean, look at him. That is a serious serious hunchback. But look at the skull as well. That is one of the best depictions of skull cranial deformation that I've actually seen. If we go have a careful look around the bottom as well, his feet are going back like he's flying, and you can see his knees. But look at the face. I mean, is that a beard he's got there, or is that something else? Now this is he's got the classic cleft lip. He's got the elongated skull. It looks like one side of his face has been mutilated, which is a thing we do actually find here at Venta, San Lorenzo and other Olmec sites. So I find that really intriguing that we kind of have that thing going on with this particular ceramic piece. This is not stone, this is ceramic. It's said to be some kind of ritual. There would be like sort of some kind of plant substance maybe in this bowl, and this is like the protector of the sacred. This is where he looks kind of scary and powerful with his hunchback and elongated skull. It's even got a hole in it, so something else was going on here. If we go around the back, the hunch is almost like a fish or an animal. Then you can see a symbol down at the bottom here, like a glyph, also as part of the design. So here we have a clear picture of a hongo, or mushroom in English. Now this is really interesting, because this is very much like psilocybin mushrooms, which have been reported to have been used by the Mayans, the Aztecs. Now it looks like the Olmecs. Now we know when we go to the museums in southern Guatemala, the later Olmec sites have lots of depictions of these type of mushrooms. And so the fact that we find a definite one here from Venta is very, very intriguing, and it does suggest, and it proves in my opinion, that they revered these sacred psychotropic plants to a very high degree, and the fact that we have one here is proof of that. So this is from a site called Piedra Talada, and it goes back to the era of the Olmecs, 1200 BC. What's interesting here is that we have some kind of big headgear, like almost looks like something from Chalcatzingo. Then we have a humanoid face just there, like an Olmec face looking to the right. Then we have kind of like a bird figure just here, and other features that you can see for yourself on this particular stela. Now, this is a commemorative stela, and it's not from Venta, but it is an Olmec site. It did come from a much smaller Olmec site. Absolutely beautiful, amazing piece. So this is from Venta, very unusual piece. It has like 4 faces going around it, making an offering. Is it like some kind of goddess figure? And you also got the head piece there that looks like some kind of Mohican, which is a tradition we find, but it's got 4 heads. So what does that represent? That is absolutely amazing. One of the most amazing pieces here. Could be different phases of life. And if we look around the bottom part of it, you can see kind of like feet, different feet. You can see like the offering bowl looking up to the gods. Absolutely amazing. So this is a classic monument from Venta, which is rarely seen because it's only on display here at the museum in Villahermosa. Here we have one of the classic Olmec heads, smaller heads with the Jaguar. So it's like the weird Jaguar. This is again from Venta, and we have a combination of like almost like the Egyptian child with this Jaguar on its head. Then we have the kind of cleft skull, but at the back this time. And then we have these strange little carvings, almost like they've been sharpening their knives, but it may have been to tune the stone perhaps. Very, very interesting piece here that was discovered at Venta. Wow, look at this. This has many features on it, all over this piece of stone. This is thought to be a fertility piece. It's thought to represent different aspects of fertility in the Olmec world. You can see the different faces carved on it and other such things. What an amazing piece. This almost looks like a classic Olmec head, but it isn't. It's a kind of combination of different faces. This was found at a site called San Miguel, which is actually not too far from La Venta. Look at this though, it's got the shape and size of a classic Olmec head, but it has got differences. You can see on the back here, some kind of carving, like a rope at the top. And we've got a face just there. Then we have other faces kind of carved on it. You can see those here and here with some kind of hat. So it's like an Olmec head with lots of faces carved all over it. Then around this side we have this, which is highly unusual, very, very impressive. Absolutely amazing piece, and even the piece behind it is equally amazing. It's thought to be a governor, like a ruler of the area that it was in. It was somewhere here in Tabasco. You can see it's got like the classic kind of headgear on. It's sitting down in the Quizzo position, and it is a colossal megalithic piece here at the museum in Villahermosa. So this is thought to represent like a governor or a ruler of a site somewhere near La Venta. It doesn't say exactly where it's from, but you can see the strange carvings of this colossal piece. It's got indentation in the back there, as well as a glyphs rather, and you can see those here. It's not just one glyph, it's many. JJ will probably know exactly what this all means, but this is just what it looks like from behind. And it's got the sort of classic kind of wrestler pants on, like we find on the wrestler statue, which was also an Olmec piece. It's almost like sumo. If we have a close up of the face, it's quite badly weathered, but it clearly has this amazing headgear and what looks like a kind of frown, like a weird Jaguar frown on it. These two pieces are from La Venta. They show kind of half human, half jaguars. You can see that in detail here. Just if we look at it from the side, you can see the kind of skull, which has got this classic kind of jaguar thing going on. We have a few more pieces from La Venta here. They're just here on display. These are like seated figures, various different poses. This one's almost like, looks like something from Tiwanaku, but it's got the classic kind of cleft lip and mouth, like a weird jaguar. We have another seated figure here from La Venta. Absolutely all beautiful pieces. Well worth visiting this museum if you're in Villahermosa or anywhere near. So this one is Monument 74. This one is Monument 75. This one, Monument 31, it's a leaning forward position here. This is something like we find from El Azazul near San Lorenzo. And we can see that there's striations down the back of this one. And we have this one here. This one is Monument 30. But these have all been deliberately mutilated. This is something we find at many of the Olmec sites, where the actual pieces have been partly destroyed. It's kind of sad that this would happen, but it does. And you see there's actually some kind of feature on the back there as well, like a tail almost. So here we have more of the mushrooms from La Venta, again proving and suggesting their use of psychedelics was prominent. Now, this is a tradition I believe was found throughout the Americas, still is, and it was developed by the Olmecs. They not only worked with mushrooms, they also had bufo marinus toads, where they would harass the toad and it would excrete this venom from its shoulders, and they'd actually use that for 5-MeO-DMT. So So these are pretty amazing, really, when you look at them. Really beautiful carvings honouring the sacred nature of these psilocybin mushrooms. This gives you the information here. This is a representation of some kind of duck, like a whistle from Venta, and this could have been part of their shamanic tradition, where they were actually creating sounds during their ritualistic psychedelic ceremonies. This is another kind of Jaguar piece from Venta. It's very badly worn, but it's almost like the human is coming out of the Jaguar's head. That's what it looks like to me. This appears to be like a torso of a humanoid figure from Venta. This is monument 57. Now, not much is left of it, really. You can kind of see, just about see the arms and the different features. I apologise for the shaky camera. Osmo ran out of card space, but you can see this is where they've kind of mutilated it, and all potentially sharpened knives, but this is like a mutilated figure. So here we have a selection of some of the most important pieces from Venta. We can actually see a copy of this at Venta site. This is monument 9. And you can see it's got very flat back of the head with a classic Olmec cap in a quizzo position. Likewise, this is in a seated position. This is monument 10. He's holding something between his hands. He's in cross-legged position. You've got these details carved on his torso. And you've got the classic weird Jaguar face with an Olmec type hat. We have another piece like over here, further back, which is like a child sitting on a megalithic throne. And you can see that here. This is monument 40 from Venta. It's like a child, like an adolescent they call it, seated on a throne. So this is monument 72 from Venta. I apologise for it being very hard to see. It hasn't got any light on it, but it's very badly weathered. It's in a crouched position, but we'll look at, see if there's any details around the back. You can see there's spirals, there's different glyphs, almost like faces carved on the back. It's got a very, very big head. And that's the glyph you can kind of see. You can kind of see some of this all around here. The face you can't really see, it's very badly weathered. And it's very dark here because it's not lit up properly, but you can see some of the features. And that's the detail, monument 72 from Venta. Now that's an interesting piece. This is an Olmec artifact, and it clearly represents the one on the right, a piece of corn. Then we have other seeds and grains carved out, and obviously they're into donuts as well, because there's a stone donut. Amazing. This just shows you the detail of this. And look, you can just see the different foodstuff, seeds, grains, fish hooks, corn and other things. Then we have these as well. These are from the pre-classic period. Just behind me is the classic mosaic. It has 470 pieces of serpentine. And you can just see the beautiful detail on this. Now these are massive chunks of serpentine, which are thought to have arrived from somewhere in the Oaxaca area on the south coast, several hundred miles, maybe 200 miles away from the site of Venta itself. And there were thousands of these, tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands. Many, many hundreds and thousands of tons of this were bought and layered below each other in the whole site, then deliberately covered up. So I'm absolutely blown away by these mosaics. They're a really special part of the site of Venta, and we actually have the original pieces here in the museum in Villahermosa. So this is actually a plan of what it looks like at Venta, and where that part there is the mosaic. Then we have this massive like platform of serpentine, like thousands and thousands of blocks, creating like this, almost like a cube under the ground. Absolutely amazing. And this would be in this area of the site. So So it would be like the northern part of the site, just north of the main pyramid. This just shows you, you know, artist's impression of what it would have looked like. It's pretty amazing all round, really. We have a good angle on it here so you can actually see the magnitude of these particular mosaics. Now this one, like most of them, are actually a representation of the weird jaguar, or the word jaguar, which is like a kind of shamanic principle found all throughout the Olmec land, like half man, half jaguar. So it's almost like a werewolf, but a jaguar. And so the fact is, if you actually look at the face there, it's actually got the eyes and the mouth and the cleft lip, etc. And so this is absolutely an amazing kind of abstract design that we find in Olmec land. So this is the last thing we're looking at in the museum here. This is the Pellicer Museum here in Villahermosa, the regional anthropology museum. And this guy was amazing actually, because he actually recovered and moved many of the Olmec artifacts from Venta that were getting damaged by the oil industry moving in and building around it. And we'll see that when we go to the site. And he preserved it and saved it. And many of the pieces are here now. Most of them are in Venta Park in Villahermosa. So we hope you enjoyed your little journey around this. We're now going to go to the Venta site itself. We hope it's open during these COVID times. We have to hope for the best. And we'll see you next time, Megalithomaniacs. Continue searching, and we'll keep sharing as much information as we can about the Olmecs and other Mexican cultures here during our visit here in 2020.